Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem of my Blitz game number 398. My opponent kicked off with c4, English opening, and I start out with knight f6, a very flexible response, waiting to see how he's planning to play it, and he continues in English lines with knight c3, and I go with c5. So now we've got a symmetrical English, and a normal way to play this would be knight f3 going into a 4 knights symmetrical, or g3 with the fianchetto. He plays the unusual move d3, and we're just out of the opening book at this point. Although that move has some logic to it. I mean, he is going to fianchetto the bishop, and he's already setting up to control these light squares. It just wasn't necessary to play it at this particular moment. So normally white players feel the need to develop their pieces first, but it doesn't hurt. You can see it stays in the range of about even, which is pretty typical for the English opening. It doesn't give much of an advantage in the computer's evaluation. Basically, the player with the English is playing for more longer-term effects. So now here he goes with the fianchetto. And right here, before he's developed his bishop, I decide it might be a good time to strike in the center with d5. A lot of times this is a way for one side or the other to, well, particularly for black, I guess. Taking this from the black point of view, it's often a way for black to equalize. In this position, white's not going to play d4 and bust things up because he's already wasted a tempo on d3. So maybe that's another reason why this move d3 so early on is a bit suspicious, because it takes away the option from white of playing d4 in one move. So I get in the move d5, and he exchanges, and then develops his bishop to d2. It's interesting, the computer was recommending to keep on exchanging and bring my queen out to the center. Anyway, I just go on with my development. He goes bishop g2, and I decide here to trade off the knight. Eventually this knight becomes a target, and I have a choice between supporting it or trading it. e6 is a move here, but that blocks in the bishop. Just knight c6 developing and postponing this decision for a while. Yeah, knight c6 and then taking is the computer line. I went ahead and took right away. And he takes back with the pawn, and then develop my knight to c6. So I'm pretty happy with this position. I've got open lines for both my bishops, and I have an equal share of the center. He has, well, he's brought one pawn from the b file to the c file, so in a way he has a little more center influence, but his pawns are further back here, so about an equal contest. He castles. I go queen c7. Running the risk of the bishop to f4, but I thought, well, he's already wasted one tempo moving the bishop. Maybe he won't move it again. And I do have the move e5 here, rather, to hit the bishop if it does come out. So I guess this is okay. Knight e1. He wants to open up this diagonal for his bishop. Maybe push the f pawn forward. I go up with b6. I want to get an opposing bishop on this long diagonal. Yeah, and he does play f4, so that's his plan. It's a bit of a weakening move. It leaves this backwards e-pawn here, but he's going to push this forward too. But all these pawn pushes are going to leave weaknesses behind, so it's interesting to watch this develop. Bishop e7, and now e4. So he's set up this pretty good looking structure here. But there is a weakness on d3, which I can target. But I start by playing e4. The idea with e4 is to prevent him from pushing his I start with playing e5. The idea being to prevent him from pushing his e-pawn forward. What is the engine like? The engine likes rook moves or queen moves instead. So, well, it still keeps an edge for black. I think it's a decent way to play. Knight f3 now, targeting my pawn. And right here, though, he's the knight coming back into the game has left this pawn undefended, and I target it right away. The engine prefers rook a to d1 over rook f to d1, rook f d8. Actually, rook a d8 is what I played. Okay, interesting. I guess cancel that. Yeah, rook a d8 is what I played. I guess the f rook has useful things to do here, so you bring the a rook to the center. That's kind of logical, and put some pressure on this pawn. And now he plays bishop to e3, defending it. And right here, it looks like bishop to a6 immediately is a move. I do something first. What? Oh, I developed the other rook first, so not the most precise move. And it gives him a little time to organize things with queen c2. And then I played bishop a6. So if I had played that immediately, it would have been stronger. But you see, this still leaves me with an edge. He supports the pawn with the rook, with the a rook. And now queen d7, increasing the pressure on the pawn is the way to go, or taking on f4. It's interesting. I thought taking on f4 was not good in the game. I thought he would take back with the bishop. Queen d7. Well, I guess the computer's point is that the queen wants to go to d7 anyway, and I still have pressure on the backwards d-pawn, so that would also be a fine way to play. Okay, so I came up with a different plan for putting pressure on the pawn, which is rook d7 to double on the d-file. But this gives him some tempos here. He could now play bishop h3, and and the computer says I have nothing better than to move the rook back, which would be a repetition. I would have to look for another way of playing this. Although I probably would have gone to d6 here, and yeah, I probably would have gone to d6 here after bishop h3. Interesting. Okay, so he didn't play that move though. He played rook f to e1 and allowed me to double, so I keep some edge. And it's White's move. He plays d4. So d4 is losing a pawn, but he was already in trouble anyway. But the best way to defend, I know you kind of hate to play this way, but bishop back to f1, just defending the pawn, gets White into a very passive position. So I would be happy playing that as well. So he tried to play a little more actively, but this does lose a pawn. I took, maybe not the best way. It looks like e takes is better. I was trying to keep this e-pawn here to keep his bishop bottled in. Okay, c takes. And then I took with the knight. It looks like e takes is the best way to get an edge. I mean, e takes comes with a tempo on the bishop. So after knight takes, yeah, he trades queens. Queen takes c7. I still leaves me with an edge through all of this. And then knight takes d4. So none of this was bad. This was okay for me. And here, by this point, I've gained a pawn. So, yeah, it was up a pawn all through this sequence. He basically gave up 2 pawns for 1 when he pushed this d4 pawn. And let's see. Knight takes e5 would have been a little bit more accurate for White here. Knight takes e5. Bishop takes. F takes. Okay, and in this way, instead of losing a pawn, he has the same number of pawns as I do, and he's just suffering from this structure. He's got a couple of weak pawns there on the e-file that I can go after. Okay, but it would have been slightly better for White to play that way. So this way I get a pretty significant edge here with the extra pawn. And he doesn't even have the advantage of the bishop here. We both sides have the bishop here. So, and my bishops are still reasonably well posted. I can bring this back to the long diagonal at any time. So he's pushing on, trying to stir up trouble with his pawns. Probably not the best way to hold this, but, well, it's difficult. If he doesn't do anything, then he's just going to lose in the long run because he's down a pawn and has no particular advantage. So he's just trying to stir up some trouble, muddy the waters, as Christoph would say. Rook cd7, and now he goes after my rook with the bishop. I thought this part of the game was kind of interesting for the play of rooks against bishops. They have contrasting powers. But the key feature really is this advanced d-pawn that I have, and I use that to pretty good effect. So he does create some weaknesses over here. He removes some pawn cover from my king and sacrifices another pawn, but tries to gain some tactical shots. So he's bringing his bishop in, but his pieces are just not well coordinated. This is covering squares around my king, but his rooks are not in a position to jump in. And this square, his light squared bishop would like to get to this square, but that's well controlled by my rooks and my bishop. So he just hasn't got the coordination to really justify this. So I attack his rook, and it forces the rook onto this diagonal. He could have gone somewhere else, but well, if he goes here, I fork it with the pawn. Probably rook to. Let's see if he plays rook here. Yeah, if he moves the rook out of the way, I'm just going to push the pawn forward, I guess, and he has no way of stopping it. So rook d2 really is the best of several bad alternatives. But now these are unfortunately placed for the bishop skewer, so I throw that in. He pushes on with e5 to open up a line for his bishop. So I go ahead and take. So he's down the exchange here. and then I play rook to e7. I didn't want to allow this to this pawn to get out of control, and now I allowed the counter skewer. Now he's got a bishop skewering these rooks, but now I can take advantage of my advanced pawn now that he's removed this piece that was blockading it. So I can just push on here, and so he goes ahead and grabs. Oh, he played rook b1, hitting my bishop. I can go ahead and queen. Yeah, so this is all lost here, but there was just cancel that. I came back with the rook here. I even get to save my rooks from the skewer here. And now I start chasing the king around. King goes to f2. And I grab this pawn and save my other rook. So yeah, I'm just up massive amounts of material, but it's a short way to the end of the game. He hits my rook with his bishop. I go over here to f5 pinning, and he defends. And then I can check here. And let's see, king f2 is the way to put up the stiffest resistance. But he played king g4, and this walks into a forced mate, starting with the bishop d1. So notice the rook is protected. The king is now forced to the side. What's the way? King to h4 is what he played. Bishop to f3. Bishop to f3 blocking, but then I just start chopping off more material. So king to h4 and rook to h5 is a nice mate. Very typical mating pattern with the bishop and rook, although it's turned on its side. And normally you see this on the back rank or the corner. And the one escape square here that the king has is controlled by the other rook. So nice little mating pattern there. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.